This is Khatt Chronicles, design stories from the Arab world, presented to you in collaboration with Assafir.
My name is Yasmine Taan, and I have with me today Rawand Issa. Rawand is a cartoonist and storyteller from Lebanon. She has been working in the media field since 2011 with Arab and international organizations. Rawand's work focuses on socioeconomic issues and documenting real stories. She's the author of the graphic memoir Inside the Giant Fish, the story of a girl looking for her lost memories on a beach that no longer exists. This book was published in Arabic in 2019 and in English in 2022. Rawand created several other short comic books and zines, including the Insubordinate and Not from Mars. I am delighted to host Rawand today at Khatt Chronicles. Hi, Rawand.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be with you.
And we are happy to host you, and we can't wait to start listening to all your stories. So maybe we can start with the first question that is about your education. So maybe you can start telling us when and or before education, when and why did you decide to become an illustrator?
Actually, I did not study illustration nor comics. I did my bachelor in graphic design. While studying graphic design, I already started a career in journalism and writing. And it happened because back then in 2011, there was a newspaper, Assafir newspaper.
Yes.
And they had a section for youth. It was called Shabab Assafir.
Yes.
What was really great about Shabab Assafir, it created a place where, like, a transition for young people to start learning, writing, storytelling, and journalism.
So, where did you study? Where did you were based in Lebanon? You were based in Beirut?
I was based in Beirut, yes. I was introduced to comics later in life. I didn't know. Of course, I knew as a kid the famous comics, that we see in magazines, but I wasn't introduced to comics that were non-commercial or more creative, if I may say.
Yeah, but this is why I wanted to ask you. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you again. Where did you study graphic design? Like, I just want to know.
Okay. I think I started in 2010.
Yes.
And it was like a 3-4 years program.
Where?
So, at AUCE, American University of Culture and Education.
And they didn't offer any courses about maybe comics or illustration as part of the program?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's actually a very small college, and it offered courses for people who work.
Oh.
And it was a very short commercial kind of program that focuses on product design and advertising and stuff like that. So the creative part of the
training. Yeah, it's like training you as a graphic designer.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It was of course we had some creative classes, but the base of the program wasn't creative. It was more commercial.
Assafir approached you and asked you to do...
No, I wasn't approached by Assafir. I went to Assafir and started writing. I started writing as a freelancer first. I was trying to tell you the story because I kind of was trained at Shabab Assafir to become a young journalist.
I see.
Then in Shabab Assafir, because we used to publish short comics at Shabab Assafir, I was able to get to know local comic artists like Lena Mirhej and the people of the Samandal. And this is where I was introduced to Arab comics or creative comics that is not the commercial ones.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I decided to start doing my own comics, and this is where it started.
Interesting. So you started by telling stories, and then you started drawing the stories. Yeah, you started
Yes, I started as a writer. And then I switched to comics. I'm still a writer. I still write, but I'm known as a comic artist more than that I'm a writer.
So now I'm curious, do you start by writing the story and then you drew it?
Yes, exactly.
Can you tell us a bit about the process?
I work on the script first.
Yes.
Then I do a storyboard according to the script I write, and then my final step is drawing.
Interesting. And the topics are mostly inspired by your daily life, by, the economic, political, social context that you live in. I mean, this is a question. I'm not... yeah, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah. And I think it's, again, because I started as a journalist, it was the need to document things, to, I don't know, tell the truth between quotations. And this was my main inspiration to do comics. It started from here. I think, not that I don't like doing comics for comics, but this is my motivation, or this is my inspiration. It started from the need to document stories and document real life stories and talk about what's happening in our political life. I would like to have a space in my life in the future to be able to do comics for comics, but I didn't get there yet. So
what do you mean?
Right now we're doing political comics.
But what do you mean doing comics for comics? I mean, comics, I think, is inherently political. I just wanted to know, what did you mean by doing comics for the sake of comics?
To be more, I don't know, abstract, creative, not necessarily targeting a heavy
topic. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a bit about this, the Insubordinate?
Yes. The Insubordinate, actually, it was a documentation of the Le Gray case. Back then, I used to work with the Legal Agenda. I'm mentioning this because at the time, Legal Agenda was working on the case of Le Gray.
I just want you to tell a bit our listeners about the context of Le Gray. Our listeners are international, and they don't know that Le Gray is a hotel in Beirut, and maybe you can tell a bit about the incident.
Yeah, Le Gray is it was called Le Gray because where they caught the people were in front of Le Gray, but it's not directly linked. The cause is not directly linked to the hotel itself. That day, a large people of young people who were protesting got caught in front of Le Gray, and because protesters were trying to cross to get to where the government buildings is, and they were trying to cross. There were police and army also.
There was a clash between the demonstrators and the state military.
That's true, and a huge glass window of Le Gray was broken back then, so this is why it was called Le Gray, but this is it's not really related to the issue. These young protesters were transformed into the military court, which is illegal because they are civilians, and the military court should only be dealing with people who are in the military. So back then, the Legal Agenda was working on this case to transform the protesters back to the civilians court, because the laws of this court works only on people who are in the military.
In the military, it applies.
Yes,
the laws apply to the military system, not to civilians. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
So back then I was working as a communication officer at the Legal Agenda, and I was very inspired by this case specifically. So I decided to collect all the articles that were published and the research papers that were written and published by Legal Agenda, and transform them into a very small comics zine. The case took a couple of years, so I kind of got back to all the articles and everything that was written, collected them, and then tried to simplify it for someone who doesn't know anything about the military. Yeah. And it was actually also published in English. I originally wrote it and published it in Arabic, self-published in Arabic, and then I published it in English with as a bilingual copy with Ma'moul Press.
Yes, I saw that. Really interesting work. And Ma'moul Press are doing an amazing...
Yes.
It's an amazing initiative, I think, yeah. But it's interesting that this is a personal initiative, right?
It was a personal initiative, yeah. I forgot to mention that I was very interested in comics journalism. I was also very inspired by Joe Sacco's work. So I really wanted to, I kind of followed what Joe Sacco created as, like, I think that he is like the number one person who started this comics journalism genre. So I wanted to, I was inspired by his work, and I wanted to kind of do the same thing of simplifying a heavy subject into a small comics story.
Yeah, and in a way, telling real stories, or stories that are very much stories that have happened, like documenting,
Documenting, yeah, exactly.
Documenting not with photographs, but with your own drawing, an event that happened in real life. I think that's
yes
in the Subordinate. Yeah.
Yes.
So it makes sense that coming into illustration or cartoon comic drawing from a background with journalism is of course you're gonna like the work. You're gonna appreciate Sacco's work and get inspired, be inspired by his work.
Yes, exactly.
Do you want to tell us about another project that you worked on? Like, I don't know, Not From Mars, maybe? Before you tell us about the latest.
Not From Mars. Yeah, Not From Mars was actually done before the Insubordinate.
Yes.
This was my first zine. It was my first zine, and it was also self-published. It's a little bit experimental because it doesn't follow the rules of, the classic storytelling. It's more of snapshots from different days of my life back then, when I still in my early 20s, moving from the village environment into the city environment as a young woman in a conservative place, trying to. It was a very coming out of age kind of zine, and it's actually this year. It is gonna become 10 years old. Not From Mars. I self-published it in 2016. Early 2016, yeah.
I think it addresses all the contradictions that we face in our lives. I mean, you mentioned some of them. The transition from the rural area to the urban area, and upbringing. The social expectations of a girl. Also, would you like to talk a bit about this?
Yes, it was such a transition for me, again, because I came from a conservative environment, and Beirut, although it's a very small city, it was such a huge place for me. I started clashing with new system, if I may say, new society. And I started realizing what does it mean to be a young woman in Beirut, trying to be independent, and also, I come from a working class family, so I had to work and study at the same time. Everything back then was a lesson for me. The life that I was dreaming for didn't, it was just in my imagination. Life was much, much tougher than I expected, especially as a young girl in a place like Beirut. And what does it mean to be also not from Beirut? So I really don't know where to start, because like it was too much. Like there's a lot of things to talk about. It was my first time protesting, my first time being active in politics, my first time being introduced to feminism, to what misogynist society means, to socialism. So, this zine, although it's a very small zine, and this is why I said snapshots, because like it takes, as if I'm taking like a very small, or I'm taking an image of a lot of events happening in my early 20s.
Yeah, and you used illustration to express all these life experiences. I think that's the amazing part. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you did use words, but mostly illustrations to express.
Yes, it was more of an illustration zine than a comics zine, like the classic comics style.
So, Rawand, what is the project that you are most proud of?
This is a hard question, because, and I think that this is common. It's not only, like, I know from also other artist friends that you be very excited when you are working on the project, but once it's done, it feels that I can do better, or I can always do better than that. So I wouldn't say that this is the project that I'm most proud of, but this is my latest project, and also my biggest one, which is the graphic novel Inside the Giant Fish. It was also the first time I publish with a commercial publisher, because before that I used to always do self-publish my publications. And it was a story that I really wanted to write for, like, since I was introduced to comics, and it talks about about my village, the privatization of the public beach in my village, and how this privatization affected the daily life of the locals, and how it changed everything in their lives, from the simple things to things that are related to their future.
Okay, so yeah, interesting. And so there's also an ecological angle of this issue as well. Like the beach is basically a place for everyone. You cannot privatize the beach, right?
Not only about that, it's because also when you live on the beach, your life is بتتمحور حول البحر. So you are a fisherman, you are a lifeguard, you are everything that is related to your identity is related to the beach. So it's not only about just going and swimming, it's much more than that. And this is why it was important for me to document that, because it's not only because we always hear about if we privatize the beach, it would become better, because if you pay a little bit for an entrance, you will get a clean pool or clean, bathrooms and stuff like that. But people don't understand that it's actually, first, you are limiting who can enter the beach. Second, you are changing the lives of the people who live by the beach, because this is their environment.
Definitely. I have a question that is maybe a bit more technical. How do you develop your characters? And can you tell us a bit about your style in drawing, in illustrating, and if you try to change the style depending on the topic or on the, like on the story? How do you deal with this? Or are you just using the same characters or drawing illustration style, or you don't believe in this? Or, tell us a bit more about your thoughts on that.
I have only one style. I don't change it, basically. It definitely develops with time, of course, and it's very obvious when you see my first publication, Not from Mars, which is 10 years ago. You will see that my style in Inside the Giant Fish, it's very much not completely different, but you can see that it developed with time, with practice, especially that I didn't start as an illustrator. And I still think that my style is very minimal. I don't necessarily do realistic illustration. Sometimes it's even childish. Like, I didn't try to change it because comics or illustration was never my main career, and it's also, I don't think it is easy to have such a career in the Arab world. It doesn't really bring you money. So I didn't really care about fitting in any kind of, style or identity. And I didn't care to change it to fit anywhere other than me telling my own stories. Because I always, on purpose, I wanted this to be for me, to express myself and the things that I believe in.
Yeah.
As for the characters, they of course change depending on the story. The thing is, when I am commissioned to do illustration, maybe you can see a little bit of change in the characters. But when it comes to my self-published work, most of the time I draw myself because I'm telling my own story. But I don't focus necessarily on a specific character, but
the character looks like you.
Not all the time. Not all the time.
Yeah,
not all the time. But when I'm writing about a personal story, I'm gonna draw myself.
Definitely. What is it about your work that you find difficulties with? That you find difficult?
To produce comics, you need time. You need to, at least this is how I try to do comics. I never did anything without trying to read about the subject, to trying to understand the thing that I'm writing and drawing about. So for me, it's a long process. It's a process that needs time and like the mental ability to be creative. The struggles that I face is that you cannot really make money from that. Most of the time when I want to make comics, I need to either lock in and do it in my free time, or take, between jobs if I have like a couple of months. So whenever I'm doing comics, I'm tired. I'm never doing comics when I have the time to do it. But at the same time, I realize that it's not impossible to make a career out of comics, but you need to have to do a lot of compromises. Mm-hmm. So either you need to go commercial, either you need to rely on funds. And when you're relying on funds, you're also making a lot of compromises on the subject and the story. Mm-hmm. And this is why recently I'm not producing as much, like since 2023, I haven't been producing as much. In the past 2 years, I was commissioned a couple of comics, and that was it. And it's because, first, the economic collapse that we went through that I also have to work. I have my daily job, I have my working hours, and also because everything is changing politically around us. Yani, all of this without even getting to talk about the war. And it's becoming very hard to, like, as if we're living in a period where many historical events are happening at the same time. And for me to be able to take a step to document, you need the story to actually end somewhere. And since 2023 until now, it's as if the apocalypse is not ending. So I find it very hard right now to be able to process what's happening in order to actually put it into a piece of art.
Yeah, and if you have a full-time job or illustration or, producing comics is very time-consuming. I mean,
Yes.
right. And also you need time to absorb what happened so you can, to translate what you've lived into illustration, I think. Yeah.
That's right.
So, Rawand, what is the project you felt got you the most recognition for?
I think it's not one project, but my comic strips. So they are different projects, if I can call them projects.
The ones that you did for, at the Assafir, you wrote, you were a journalist, you were not a...
Yeah, I weren't a comic artist. I will tell you, like from 2017 until 2023, I was kind of producing nonstop comic strips in different magazines and different websites in Arabic and English. So I think this is what got me the recognition, because I was producing constantly short comics and they were kind of getting attention online.
Yeah, and so they were all online? Platforms can reach a large, online platforms are really worldwide,
Yes.
circulation. Yeah.
Yes.
So why do you feel that what you do is important or of, like a greater relevance?
I don't think that it's important. No, I mean, no, this is not what I mean. I mean that, excuse my nihilism while we live in this dark moments in our life. But I mean that, of course, it's important for me, but like...
And do you believe that you can make a difference?
No. And this is what I was trying to explain, that as much as storytelling and documenting are very important, but they don't really make a difference, an actual difference in our daily life. It's just a way of communication. This is how I look at it.
Rawand, I want to share this with you. When I saw your illustrations, the ones with the first ones that you have done, I am not from Mars. Is it? Is this a title? I am
not from Mars.
Not from Mars.
Yeah.
These were life-changing, really. I mean, they struck me. I mean, I really wanted to meet the person behind these stories. Yeah, I have to say, I mean, I think your work is very important. I mean, this is me, but it's the podcast is about you now. But I wanted to share this with you. Your illustrations are very powerful. They carry important messages. And
of course, I'm very happy to hear that.
Yes,
and I mean, thank you very, very much.
The issue that you just told us about, the stories that you told us about, it's very important to document these, and for people to know, to learn, to. I'm not going to say to read, but maybe you can also read illustrations. You can read images. So, reading images is important, and it reaches out.
Yeah,
to the community.
It's not that I want to, not appreciate this type of art in general, war, it doesn't stop genocide, it doesn't affect politics. This is what I mean.
Yes, okay.
By yani, it affects people directly, just as like when you read a novel that touches you somewhere, that communicates with you somewhere, or that express feelings that you maybe by yourself can't express because you didn't process yet. It's a very, very intimate type of art. As much as it is very political, it's still very intimate. Of course, storytelling is very important, but it does not really cause change. This is what I'm trying to say. Like, looking at it from a political perspective, I don't know what would I have done without comics. I don't know, but still, when I look at what's happening in the world, I feel that a little bit helpless and like, I don't know what we should do, but do you know what I'm talking about?
Definitely, I totally agree with you. But I think let's look at it from a different way. I think that living through the ongoing killing, wars, crimes, injustices is somehow a drive for a creative illustrator like you to produce more powerful work. Can we say this? Do you agree?
Of course. Yani, but if you look at the platforms right now, one of the things that has also affected my my creative process is the platform that we publish on. So to be able to be seen, or your works to be seen, you have to have social media. You have to have a lot of followers on social media. The algorithms and everything, and the influencer kind of thing, all of this is very killing for the creative process and for whatever process any artist would do. Like, the fact that you need to constantly market yourself, not only your work online, for people to read what you do is exhausting, and it's very toxic.
No.
Recently, I even haven't been, like, I have been commissioned for a couple of creative work that I did not even publish or talk about, because it feels the amount of also, we didn't also start talking about the AI generated art.
Yes, that's
all
an
of these
important topic. Yeah.
Yes, all of these things. Of course, they're gonna. I feel that I needed to take a step back, look at everything that I'm doing, and what does it really mean in these times that we are in. Again, not that I want to say that they're not important. Of course, it is important, but it's not as powerful as I used to see it. The amount of copy paste of things that the AI is doing right now, and the algorithm things, and how every person need to now market themselves in order to do whatever in life, even if you want to be, I don't know, if you do bread, if you want to do coffee, if you want to, whatever skill that you have in life, you need to market yourself. And it's exhausted and
True.
it's exhausting. Sorry, it makes you, you have to doubt a little bit and question whatever you're doing. Maybe it's the time that we look for an alternative. Not that the work itself is not important, but the way we are producing it needs to change somehow. This is all what I'm thinking about lately. The questions that come to my mind, like, are comic artists right now really in their best creative process when they are trying to do whatever to market their work on social media? Are they their true selves? Are they actually doing the work that they want to do? The work that means to them and to the people around them, to the environment they live in? It makes you question all that, and I'm very sure that this is very common, and it's not something that I myself am going through. I'm very sure that it's a collective thing. Even the platforms that we publish at, like the online platforms, they're not magazines anymore. Not, yani, everything is changing. You have even limitations in the size of the work that you're trying to do. Now it should, and it has been for the past years, that it has to fit inside this cadre that fits the social media platform, you know?
Mhm.
So, like, I don't know, the comic arts that we know, like as a genre or as an art field, a creative line of communication, it's changing as everything is changing. And I am in a place right now where I'm trying to think of an alternative of how do I want to express myself? What do I want to do with my production, with my work, with my art? I hope I made sense.
Yeah, definitely. I'm being quiet because you're making me think, and I'm thinking about the age that we live in and the temporal dimension of this age. Everything is going fast. Everything is somehow instant, immediate, and I think this is when we mostly need illustration to calm down, to go through the process, to produce sequences of a story, because this makes sense. It's not just, like being bombarded with millions of images and not being able to put them together. And now I'm thinking about comics and the way it is being produced, frame by frame. And in a way, the process of making sense of a story with a beginning and an end. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think,
Yes.
like even today, I feel like I need to read a book. I need to sit and read and spend more time thinking about what digesting or absorbing and making sense of information. And I think this is because we're human. We need time to process, and I think illustration can help in there. But I don't know. I mean, I leave it up to you.
I definitely agree with you. And I have the same urge of wanting and needing to read things that took time, that actually means something and not just fast production.
Yes, exactly.
I want to give you an example. I want to give you an example of something that was very disturbing for me.
Please do.
And this is where I really decided to like take a step back from, I don't know, mass producing online or on my socials. At the beginning of the genocide in Gaza, I don't know why this became a trend among artists online. And it's not only in the Arab region, it was something that was like an even international artists were doing. Whenever any bombing that happened on a school or on a hospital, they would just copy the awful images of dead bodies and draw them and put them online. And I didn't understand this. Like, why would you copy or draw an image of a dead child and just put it on Instagram as a colorful piece of art, and people would share it and like it? Like, what does that have to do
We do.
with what's happening? That's not documenting anymore.
No, we do live in an absurd world. Yeah, I mean,
This is where I decided that I don't want to be part of this. I need to be very conscious about what I'm producing. It's not only about because at the same time I don't want to be I want to be critical, but I don't want to be tough on people, because as someone who produces or in the creative field, you have sometimes this urge that you want to, something important happens, so you want to talk about it. But this urge need to be more critical. Yani, you need to think about it. What does it mean? Why am I doing this? Am I just trying to fit in the algorithms of social media? But I'm using dead bodies to do that. Like I don't know, it becomes unethical sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially for someone that believes that they're doing political comics. I think that a person should stop and question themselves. Why am I doing that?
Yeah, true. I appreciate you bringing this up. I mean, I'm also thinking now about your illustrations and the way they communicate. If we take them frame by frame, it seems like you haven't worked on the aesthetic. It is more of an improvised way of instead of writing the story, drawing the story. So there's an event that is happening throughout the frames that you produce. And I think this is where your illustrations are powerful. Anyway.
Yes, thank you for your observation. That's very true.
Any final word or thought that you would like to leave us with while we're wrapping up this really interesting conversation?
No, I think like the podcast is very interesting for me, especially if you have been talking to artists that I like recently. And I think it's very important for artists sometimes to discuss things rather than just producing. You know, like an artist is not a person that should always produce, but rather sometimes take a step to have the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I think it's very important what this podcast is doing, like to raise the discussions and the doubts and the struggles that artists are going through.
Yes, and learn more about, the people behind these illustrations and their struggles, the reason for the illustrations, the stories.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you're right. Thank you, Rawand.
Thank you so much, Yasmine.
Thank you, and have a nice evening.
Have a nice evening yourself. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. This was Khatt Chronicles, design stories from the Arab world.